Hello and welcome to another Wolfman Analytics DAX Let's Play video. Today we're going to be looking at total year to date. So I woke up this morning thinking to myself, well, I woke up, I did a small meditation, and it's crazy what things come to you while you're doing a little meditation. And I had total year to date come into my mind, and I was thinking about how the performance of total year to date, the function total year to date, compares to calculating it manually. So I thought, why not make a little video and we can explore together speed comparisons of total year to date versus, like I say, a more manual way of calculating your cumulative year to date. So let's jump over to the screen and we'll create a couple of measures using total year to date function, doing the manual way, and then we'll jump over to DAX Studio and do some performance comparisons with the two. So I've got a table set up here with month year. So month year going back, rolling back from 2023 through 2020. We're only really interested in 2023 for this exercise, but I'm going to leave all the other years in there for now anyway. The model I'm using is the Contorso database, which I picked up from SQL BI's website. So I'm using my own dim date custom date table, which has got a one-to-many relationship with the order header table linking on date order, and then we've got a one-to-many relationship with our order lines table, and this is the value that we'll be pulling back for our exercise. It's the net sales value from our order lines table. So let's get into creating a measure. So the first measure, let's do our total year to date. Zoom in. So we'll call this M1 total year to date equals, let's open a variable block, V total year to date equals, okay, so we want to calculate our total year to date. So what's it asking for? So the expression will be a sum of the net sales value from our order lines table, and it's also asking for the dates that we'll be measuring over or iterating against, or what would you call it, filtering against? No, filtering is not the right word. There are two optional conditions we can put in it, a filter and a year end date. I'm not going to touch those this time round. Yeah, we'll leave those blank. We're just going to input the expression and the dates. So total year to date, this will be a sum of the order lines net sales value, and then we also want our dates, which will be our dim date field from our custom date table. So I can close that calculate function. I can return, whoops, forget the syntax error, I haven't finished what I'm typing. There we go. Have we got any errors? No, we haven't. So what are we doing? We have a variable which is total year to date. Calculate. We are calculating the total year to date from a sum of the order lines net sales value for date within dim underscore date date. Let's add this measure to our table. Okay, so here is our 2023 block, and we can see, well, I can see at the end of December 2022, our values peaked, and then they start again from Jan 23. So the function is doing exactly like it said it would, which we would expect, which is calculating our cumulative year to date for the current year, and that all seems to be calculating fine. It does look like we've got some duplicate values from October, November and December, and that will be because we have no data after October. So let's just quickly test that by introducing a new measure. We'll call this M2 date check. Call this, so our date check will be a max of the let's take the max of the dates in the order header table, which is what we're linking back to our custom date table. So this will be latest sales date. Call this variable, and this will be a max of the date order. Let's close that. Okay. Why doesn't it like that? Aha! There's no equals after the name of the measure, and we want to return the latest sales date. So that looks pretty cool. Let's add that to our table so we can see what the latest date is. So there, we can see that the latest date is the 8th of the 10th in October. So there are no sales after October, so we would expect the cumulative value to be flat from October onwards. Now you may not, when you're doing your visuals, you would most probably want to remove those items from your calculation, just because you'll have a flat line going from the date, the latest sales date up to the end of the year, and that might not be something that you want to show in your visual, just a flat line going across. And if it was a bar chart, you'd just have loads of stacked bars going across to the end of the year. So I guess we could quickly explore removing that before we jump on to creating another measure, which is the more manual way of calculating the cumulative year to date. So let's just jump back to M1, our original measure. We're going to need to put another variable in here, which would be var. We need to get the sales value in the current row context. So v sales value is equal to some order lines net sales value. So this is just giving us our sales value, like I say, in the current row context. We just need to check if this is blank or not when we're returning the result of this measure. So we would put an if is blank. So if is blank and v sales value, then return a blank. Otherwise, return the total year to date. And let's have a look at our chart. So here we can see that the two values have disappeared from our table. So why is the month year still there, Matthew? Why? Well, I'll tell you why. It's most probably because in a previous exercise I've gone to our columns and I've got this show items with no data flag on. So if I take that off, then it's removed the November and December iterators from this table. Items we're iterating over, but I'm going to reintroduce those blank iterators. So show items with no data, I'm going to put that flag on, and that will give us our November and December information there. Back to our next measure, and actually let's create a new measure. We'll leave our date track there. Don't want to destroy the date track. Right, M3, this can be our manual year to date. Let's zoom in. Okay. So how do we want to calculate this? So if we're doing a manual year to date, we need to understand what year we are currently in. So how would we work this out? For the current row context, we need to take the year, so we can apply a filter to a calculate function. So var current date, so we could take a max of the dim date date, and let's just return this. We'll do this step by step. V current date. Oops. So this is going to return the maximum date in the row context of this month year. So for October, we have the 31st of October. For September, we have the 30th of September. Okay, so we're happy with that. So now we want to return the year. So we want to convert this date. Let's change this name so it'll be more meaningful. Current year. And I'm going to wrap this max function in a year function. Let's press enter on that. Okay, let's have a look at the result. So 2023, and then here, whoa, crazy line. It changes to 2022. So that's just magic. So let's expand out this variable a little bit. So we don't just want to do... No, let's continue this. I'm getting ahead with my thoughts. So let's do a calculation on the result that we're looking for. So if we go v result, result will be our calculate function. So calculate how are we going to do this? Calculate sum of our order line's net sales value so let's just make sure that's working. So I've copied down the v result into what the result that we're actually returning. So here we have our sales for in the current row context. So the sales is aggregated at the iterator, which is month year. So I'm going to add a filter and this filter is going to be incorrect because we're only going to do it on year. So we're going to filter dim date, year, oh sorry, we're going to filter dim date, and we've got dim date year column by our current year. So this is just going to give us a for all. So we need to wrap this dim date in an all function. So by putting all around our dim date table reference, we're removing the row context and the any filter context from the calculation. So this is giving us a grand total, and then we're applying the dim date year to the calculation. So if we just look down slightly, we can see that the total value is 183,371,796, which is the same as our October value, which is fine, that's great, but we want to do cumulative going up, leading up to October. So to achieve this, we need to know what the maximum date in the current row context is, so we can go from the start of the year only up to the current month in our table. So we want to go from the start of the year to the current month in our table. So to identify the start of the year, we have a year reference here, but I want to have a year date. So let's take our date here. Let's use a date function. So date, this is going to calculate our current year, and then it's always going to start from the 1st of January. We can call this our start date. So this is always going to return the 1st of the 1st and then the current year in the context of the date that we're calculating against. When you look at the iterators, when looking at the iterators that we're using, in this case month year. So that's our start date. So now we need to identify the end date. The end date. So this will be the maximum date in the current row context. So this will be max dim date date. So let's run a test now. Our start date. Okay, once we just correct this. So right, let's fix this filter function before we go into testing. So filter what do we want to do? We want to filter by dim date date is equal to greater than or equal to a start date and dim date date is less than or equal to our end date. So we've got no errors. Let's just double check our start dates are working. So we've got the 1st of the 1st 2023, and then hopefully you can see that. You can see on as we transition to December here, this moves to the 1st of the 1st 2022. Wonderful. It is wonderful. So let's test our end date. So this is the maximum date in the current row context. Okay, we did this earlier, so we know it works, this part of our date check. So in October 2023, the maximum date is the 31st of the 10th 2023. So when we go back to our manual year-to-date calculation, we're taking the start date and the end date, and we're calculating how many sales occurred in between those two dates. So let's go back to our measure and let's put V result after our return, after our variable block, and let's calculate. And there we have it. If I can zoom in a little bit more. Okay. So all of those values are returning exactly the same values. So these two functions are doing exactly the same thing. They're returning the same values. And as we go back into 2022, then you can see that the values of they are doing their cumulative for the current year. Wonderful. So that's all well and good. Great, super, fantastic. But which one's faster? You ask. Which one of these is the faster function? Let's find out. Let's go to DAX Studio. Okay, so we can quickly do this. How do we want to type this out? So we want to do a define. We want to define two measures. So measure. So the first measure will be underscore measure. Let's call this one test one. Test one underscore total year to date equals, and we will cheat. Instead of typing it all out again, let's grab our measure from here. I'm going to take out this if is blank. Am I going to take it out? Yeah, because it might skew. Leaving ifs in might skew our results slightly. So let's just have V total year to date, and let's change. Oh well, yeah, that would have definitely made a difference because the first measure had a if statement in, and the second measure did not have an if statement in. So that would have been an unfair test. Good job we spotted that one. A darn good job. Okie dokie. There's our first measure. So that's okay. Let's do our second measure. Measure underscore measure. What do we want to call this? Test 2 manual year to date equals. Let's go back to Power BI and grab our second measure. Jump back over to DAX Studio. Okay. So we have our two measures. Now we just need to build a replica of the table that we had in Power BI. So evaluate, summarize, dim date, and the iterator is going to be dim date, month, year. Okay, let's return this. Right, what's going on here? That was silly of me. Measures. Got the S off measures. Okay, so this will be crap because it's not month year's not going to be a good one to use because the sort order's all messed up in when we're running it through DAX Studio. So oh no, actually what we could do is let's put the sort order column in. Month year sort order column. Okay, now we're rocking and rolling. Now we need to add these measures. So let's use an add columns to that table. The first measure we'll call test 1 underscore year to date, and this is going to be not test 2, test 1 total year to date. Okay, so let's run this and see if it works. I'm just going to put an order by on the month year sort column just because it's going to be a pain every time we run this. So I'm going to order by descending. Let's rerun that. Okay, so that's returning just zoom in there so you can see in the table output it's returning the same values as what we had in Power BI. So let's turn on server timings and let's test the test 1 is using total year to date function. So let's go over to our server timings and let's run this. Okay, there's our first result, 27 milliseconds. Let me just write that down. We'll run it a few times. 27. Let's run it again. 20. $13. We'll do it on a fifth time. 23. Okay. And now let's change to our test 2 manual year to date. Test 2 manual year to date. Okay. Let's comment out this first one. So this will be interesting. Let's run it in 3, 2, 1. Whoa ho ho! 250 milliseconds. I don't think this is going to be hard to work out who the winner is. Let's run it 5 times. 253. 2, 4, 3. 2, 4, 3. And 2, 4, 8. Well, let's just pop over to Excel. So what did we have? 27, 20, 13, 13, 23. $19.2 milliseconds to run total year to date, and a grand total of 247 milliseconds to run the manual way of doing this. So what's our conclusions? Well, I think you don't need to be a super data analyst, scientist, engineer, whatever, to figure out that if you want to do total year to date calculations, cumulative year to date calculations, if you want to have a great user experience, you use total year to date function. Isn't that awesome? Well, I had fun working figuring that out. I hope you had some fun figuring that out, because I definitely did. Like I say, came to me first thing this morning, and to be honest, I've been doing it manually for a very long time now, and I only came across a total year-to-date function when I was asking ChatGPT a question on some non-related topic of, I can't remember what I was trying to figure out, and then it came up in a function, and I was like, ooh, that's interesting. I'll have a mess around with that. And like I say, this morning it was just on my mind about what's the speed difference between using these two different functions, and their speed difference is significant. So there you go. Use total year to date in the future for your cumulative year to date. So if you like this video, please drop a like down below. If you want to see more content like this, you can obviously search through my YouTube channel, or you can go to wolfman.uk, where I post articles, more videos, and other stuff on there as well, from some lifestyle stuff that I do. And yeah, if you really like this video and you've learned a lot, you can go to my site and you can buy me a coffee as well. So there's option to buy me a coffee on there. I would be very, very grateful if you decided to go down that road. So thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.